We're going to go live now to the phone lines where we're really, really happy and pleased to have on the phone lines to help us understand the Caribbean and the CARICOM's response, the regional response to the crisis in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the volcano. We've been talking about this all day. That's erupting now. So many displaced, and let's hear from Ambassador David Comesong, CARICOM ambassador to CARICOM out of Barbados. What is happening there? Good morning, Ambassador Comesong.
Good morning, Sister Kabu. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right. Thank you so much for joining as usual at very short notice. We appreciate you. All right. So, wow, what a time for us in the Caribbean. We're just, coming to grips with what happened in Montserrat, and Plymouth and so on. And we've been talking about the activities that we're seeing in St. Vincent and with Le Suffreur, generally speaking, these last few months. But here we are at a moment that we didn't want to see come. What can you tell us is the update? What's the latest as far as you know in your official position?
Well, the evacuation from the danger areas seems to have been more or less completed. Some 20,000 people would have been affected, 6,000 in the red zone. That's the zone immediately around the volcano, the people most in danger, and 14,000 from what they call the orange zone. So a little less than 20% of the population has been evacuated to the south of the island, the area around Kingstown, and many of the evacuees, I would imagine, would have been taken in by family members. But I think just over 2,000 are in some 76 government shelters. And so the situation now is basically the government of St. Vincent has sent out its needs requirements. Mm-hmm. And, the needs right now pertain to taking care of the displaced people. The water supply has been basically shut off because of fear of contamination of the water from the sulfuric ash that has been falling all over St. Vincent. So there's a big need for water tanks, quantities of water, cots, beds for the evacuees who are in the various government shelters, hygiene kits, those kinds of supplies. Mm-hmm. Various CARICOM countries have been responding. Barbados has already gone in, the Barbados Coast Guard. So Barbados has taken in supplies, needed supplies. Mm-hmm. Guyana will be sending supplies, Trinidad and Tobago, various mm-hmm. CARICOM countries. Yeah. All of this is coordinated under the Caribbean Disaster Emergency and Management Agency, SEDEMA. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the situation right now. We are we're talking about internally displaced persons in St. Vincent. Mm-hmm. We are on standby as to whether Vincentians will need to be accommodated in neighboring Caribbean islands, but so far we have not gotten that request from the government of St. Vincent.
Mm-hmm. We understand also that there are some Vincentians who are also in boats or cruise ships docked off the coast. Can you tell us about that?
Well, that's a little bit uncertain. Initially, we thought that the St. Vincent government was going to be immediately requesting evacuation to other islands. So Barbados has been hosting a number of cruise ships. Sometimes things work out in such a strange way. Mm-hmm. Barbados was one of the few countries last year that did not turn its back on the cruise ships. So during the height of the pandemic last year, when everybody was turning away the cruise ships and refusing to allow them to come in. Barbados actually hosted and provisioned dozens of cruise ships and repatriated something like 25,000 cruise ship passengers. So because of that, the cruise ships, many of the cruise ships now are kind of home porting in Barbados. So we have about 5 or 6 cruise ships right now, empty cruise ships that is, you know, but just anchored off Barbados. So they have been available to come to the rescue of persons in St. Vincent. So on Friday, you know, cruise ships went to St. Vincent. So the idea was that the St. Vincent government would have been asking for evacuation to neighboring islands, but that hasn't happened. I think my sense of what is happening is that the St. Vincent government is hoping that they will not have to evacuate their nationals outside of St. Vincent. But I think a lot of that will depend on what the volcano does.
Right.
So I think they're in a wait-and-see pattern. So for right now, the evacuees are in St. Vincent, and the government there is trying to cater to their needs. I guess listening to what the scientists are saying about the volcano, and to see whether things become so dire that Vincentians have to be accommodated in other Caribbean islands. So I think the cruise ships are on standby if required to do that kind of evacuation.
And the information we're getting on this side, and I suppose as CARICOM and the coordinators respond to this, is that the eruption may continue into the next few days and possibly even a week.
I mean, it could be worse than that, you know. You know, we have to. I think we have to prepare for the worst case scenario and hope and pray for the best case scenario. The reality is, in 1979, when that volcano last erupted, people were displaced for 6 months. You began by referring to Montserrat. I mean, the Montserrat situation took place over a period of years. You know, about 4 years before that volcano really settled down. So I think we would be well advised in the Caribbean community to begin preparing for a worst case scenario. Of course, hoping that it doesn't happen, but a worst case scenario would say that thousands of Vincentians may have to be accommodated in various CARICOM countries. So I think we just need to start. I know in Barbados we have already turned our attention to the possibility of accommodating Vincentian brothers and sisters here. So I know the planning has already started here in Barbados if we get that call from St. Vincent. But I think that all CARICOM member states now really should be thinking about that. Perhaps making an in-principle offer that if it comes to that, they will be willing to take in a number and starting to think through the process, what that will entail.
Yes.
What would you need to do to prepare for the accommodation of such evacuees?
I note that the Prime Minister of Jamaica has also said that Jamaica is ready and willing to assist in terms of accommodating.
Great.
As a matter of fact,
that's what we want to hear.
Yes, I
think that's what we need to hear.
Yes, he sent out a press release saying Jamaica ready to provide support to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He says in light of the increased threatening security of the La Sofera volcano, he spoke with Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves to express solidarity with the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and outlined the disaster response arrangements. President Gonsalves outlined the disaster response arrangements, and the Prime Minister said that Jamaica is ready to assist. He didn't say accommodate. I'm not saying accommodating in that press release, but he says ready to assist. So let us hear what will happen. But you're saying from a CARICOM perspective, has there been a discussion, or you're leaving it to CARICOM is leaving it to individual countries to reach out and make their own?
Well, Well, CARICOM has an institution that deals with this. That is CDEMA, Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency. And CDEMA, it is headquartered in Barbados, so it has its main kind of coordination center here in Barbados. But CDEMA is an umbrella organization for all of the national emergency organizations. So I don't know what you call it in Jamaica. In Barbados, it's our Department of Emergency Management.
Right.
In St. Vincent, it is National Emergency Management Organization.
Yes.
So CDEMA has been on the case since the 29th of December. Once it became clear that the volcano had started to give signs of becoming active, CDEMA activated its regional coordinating center here in Barbados and its regional coordinating plan. So things were put in place from the 29th of December. Even, you see, a lot of things happen behind the scenes and Caribbean citizens are not aware. So, for example, a lot of the intelligence about the volcano and what was going to happen with it came as a result of CDEMA putting in additional monitoring equipment. CDEMA carried out a 7-day helicopter survey of the volcano, brought in scientists from the Montserrat Volcano Observatory, put in additional equipment. So even like the advance warning as to when the evacuation order was issued and all of that, there's actually a coordinating group on volcanic hazards that CDEMA put together, comprising the CARICOM Secretariat, the UE Seismic Research Center, scientists from the Montserrat Volcano Observatory, scientists from Martinique and Guadeloupe, CARICOM Impacts, and so forth. So CDEMA, when a disaster like this happens, there's already a plan in place.
Yes.
So things are going according to how they're supposed to go. Right now, it is just a question of the St. Vincent government has indicated what its needs are, and as you said, CARICOM countries are responding to those needs. So we are sending in the things that they tell us that they need, and all of this will be coordinated through the various national emergency organizations, so that we're not duplicating. CDEMA is being kept informed as to what each country is sending in, and so forth. But there are many teams on standby. There's a disaster response team on standby. There's the rapid needs assessment team on standby. There's a search and rescue team on standby. Hopefully, we will not need a search and rescue team. And CDEMA has even started to do planning for the recovery, because St. Vincent, when this is over, all the crops are going to be destroyed. The livestock is going to be destroyed. There will be a severe interruption of the St. Vincent economy. There will be debt issues. So, but the point is, because we have done this for so long now, CDEMA has been around for decades now. We've done this, so the planning is already in place.
Way advanced.
A lot depends on what the volcano actually does.
Yes.
What the scientists tell us.
And I see that
and what transpires.
I see that UE Seismic Research Center. They're giving a minute-by-minute update, and they say explosions and accompanying ashfall of similar larger magnitude are likely to occur over the next few days. And for listeners, if you go to the UE Seismic Twitter feed, you'll get a minute-by-minute, literally update as to what's happening there, and it's interesting, but also frightening in a way for us as Caribbean people. I can just imagine people being displaced in the way that so many are being displaced in St. Vincent and the Grenadines today. It's easy to it's easy to put ourselves in their shoes. We're right here in the Caribbean. One Caribbean, as Professor Vereen Shepherd reminds us, so that it's easy for us to do that. The Barbados is being impacted, even to a much lesser degree, and I understand St. Lucia and Grenada might also be impacted in terms of the ash fall. What can you tell us about what's happening in Barbados?
Well, Barbados is very much tied to St. Vincent because the prevailing direction of the upper level winds mean that whatever eruption of ash goes into the air over that La Soufriere volcano, the winds take it directly to Barbados. So it arrives over Barbados in 90 minutes. So we have not seen the sun in Barbados since Friday.
Wow.
So it is right now in Barbados. It is perpetual dusk during the daytime hours, and all of the windows in the houses, your windows are shut tight because you're trying to keep out the ash, and it's not safe to be outside breathing in the ash particles. So it just brings home, that we're all tied up. We're all tied up with each other. If St. Vincent coughs, some of those germs are coming Barbados's way. So yes, it's very bleak here. Very quiet. People are off the streets because you want to avoid being outdoors and being exposed to breathing in those the ash particles. So we are getting the brunt of it because of the direction of the winds. I think St. Lucia would have gotten some of it as well, but
Grenada,
the ash cloud comes directly over Barbados.
Wow.
We're 100 miles away, huh? Barbados
Yes.
is just about 100 miles away from St. Vincent. So 90 minutes and it's here.
Wow, it's an experience. What an experience for us as Caribbean people. There's. It seems as if there's a standby situation going on as far as the regional response is concerned, even though Barbados has gone in with some of what has been requested already from the Prime Minister. The rest is now to watch and see what will be needed depending on the if the eruption continues. We're speaking to our brother Dr. David Mohammed from Trinidad earlier this morning, and he says in talking to his the members of the Nation of Islam in St. Vincent, they talked about the way the volcano is erupting in terms of you're not seeing hot lava, but you're seeing these plumes, these mountains of ash, and he talked a little bit about the health concerns even on the other side of this, which of course Barbados would also have. So that's something that you're obviously CARICOM will be paying attention to also.
Yeah, well, they've been putting out, the health authorities have been putting out information about how to deal with the ash, but there's not really much you can do. Keep indoors as much as possible. If you do have to go outdoors, make sure you're wearing your mask and so forth. It's a bit concerning. If it just goes on for a couple of days and it ends, then that's not too bad. But I can just imagine if this situation persists for weeks, for any extensive period of time, that we will have a serious problem in Barbados as well, because it has implications for even livestock, the grass that the cows and the sheep may be eating, exposure of the animals, all kind. The airspace has been shut down. Planes are not flying, and so it is really a very troubling situation all around. Not only for St. Vincent, mostly for St. Vincent,
of course,
but
yes,
for neighboring CARICOM countries as well. And what makes it worse is that it's coming in the midst of the dislocation caused by COVID-19.
Yes.
So we are already struggling with all of that dislocation, and then the hurricane season is about to commence. So we are really being tested in the Caribbean.
Yes.
And CARICOM, and this is where we're really going to have to hold our nerve. We're going to have to
hold each other's hands
as we can,
and hold our nerves and hold each other's hands. Yes.
Yes. Solidarity, right across the board, and we have to hope. We have to hope that we are fortunate as well. That what David Mohammed said is correct. It's not been like a singular explosive eruption. It's been more akin to an effusive eruption, where it has been continuing over a period of time, having all of these almost continuous eruptions, not of lava, but of ash and dust dust particles, sulfur particles, But that too is, as I said, just that alone will destroy crops and livestock in St. Vincent.
You mentioned
damage to houses.
You mentioned the water supply. So the water is turned off. Obviously, then you're thinking of how do people get water? Then is a question, and then we're seeing also that electricity is also off. So the situation in St. Vincent is dire.
Yeah, the electricity went. There was an island-wide blackout in the early hours of this morning, but they've managed to restore electricity to several parts of the country. So I guess they will get that under control. But they did send out a need for lots of water. I mean, I don't have the figures here in front of me, but the most pressing need was actually for water, water tanks, and things of that nature,
Yes.
So, yes. So I think Venezuela has sent in, so St. Vincent has sent out its needs, and there are going to be multiple responses. Barbados has already gone in. Venezuela has gone in. Guyana is gearing up over the next 48 hours to send in supplies. We have people's collections going on in Barbados. So the Barbadian population has been told what they need to donate, and they're making donations to the Coast Guard facility here in Barbados.
Right. Well, we are not having that conversation. We're not having that conversation as yet here in Jamaica, and I think maybe after our talk this morning, we'll begin to have the conversation of what we, the people, can now do in terms of our own donations to be sent into St. Vincent. So we're standing by.
So this is the first response. The first response is basically centered around the people in the shelters and the water needs of the country. That's the first response.
Okay.
St. Vincent will then subsequently let us know if we have to go beyond that. If we have to look now at taking evacuees into our own islands. So so we're just waiting to hear if it becomes that dire that needs to happen. That needs to happen. And so we need to be thinking about. I think I would urge all of our governments to at least begin thinking about that and what we would need to do, because if you're going to accommodate brothers and sisters from another country, you have to think about how do you make them comfortable, how do you properly provide for them, what all the needs are, and so forth. And I think that they say many hands make the load light. I think that the more countries that kind of step forward and offer to accommodate some, so it doesn't become too burdensome for any one country.
And of course, St. Vincent is a small country with the population is not very large, is it? So that
well, if you're thinking, we think it's 20% of 20,000 people. Of the people that have been displaced,
yes,
we're talking 20,000 people. Of course, I don't think you would need to, if it came to having to send people to other countries, I don't think it will be whole 20,000, because among those people, there'll be people with family in other parts of St. Vincent, and they can fit in and so forth,
Yeah.
But you're probably looking at, several thousand in any event, and so the more you can split those up among several countries so that they could be properly taken care of, because when we think of a refugee situation, we're obviously, our standards will be higher in the Caribbean. We wouldn't want to see people in tents and all of that. We would want to see people properly accommodated. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. But I'm just thinking ahead.
Yeah, of course, and we need to
kind of plan for the worst case scenario.
We do need to, because the indications, all indicators point to a protracted eruption, and so then this thinking, I think, is important in the planning ahead. Ambassador, thank you so much. It is. I think the thing to do, as you said, is to prepare ourselves, and the preparation has started. The standby is in place. As a nation now, to those who are listening in Jamaica and to those who are listening on the internet at irefm.net, just across Jamaica on your mobile apps, stand by, because we're going to have to hold each other's hands. And as Prof. Shepherd said this morning, one Caribbean. This is where our thinking is. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ambassador.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure being here.
All right.
Bye.
All right.